Hey everybody, Catch Cormier here. One of the great things about fly tying is the endless possibilities. Whether it's creating a new fly or taking an existing pattern and making a few modifications to it, creating something that's quite different. Today we're going to tie the Countach Plus Jig Nymph, or the Knuckle Dragger Plus Nymph. Let me explain. The Countach fly was created by Clark Pierce, a well-known fly tying circles as Uncle Cheech and co-owner of Fly Fish Food. The Knuckle Dragger was created by another renowned tyer and author, John Newberry. Now the two flies basically imitate a stonefly. They're almost identical in shape and structure, with only a few material differences. In their original form, the Countach and Knuckle Dragger are dynamite for trout, smallmouth, bass, and panfish, but the Plus version adds a marabou tail that gives it that something extra that really turns on the fish. So let's get started. For the hook, I'm using a slightly longer shank jig hook, size 12. Either a fulling mill Jig Force long or Gamakatsu J20B. Both of those have a slightly longer shank than your typical jig hook. The bead is a 1/8 black tungsten bead that I use for deep fishing. If I'm going shallow or I want a slow flutter, I use a brass copper bead. After tying in a thread base, first thing I'll do is add the marabou tail. I usually use ginger or tan tails, marabou for this particular color. You'll notice that what I do whenever I get a package of marabou tails, I'll take the finer tips out and strip them of all the fuzzy stuff off, because that's all I use on trout and panfish flies, is the fine tips. Measure it off of about the same length as the shank hook and tie that in. Tie it just to the point where the bend starts to go down. And trim this off. Next, I'll take one grizzly flutter leg in a root beer color. What I'm going to do is I'm going to cut it in half. Take that half a leg and tie it in. I'll tie up further back, then bring forward, and as I tie, I want to keep these legs split. As such. Bring it all the way back to tip my marabou. What I can do at this point, just to get those things out of my way, is go ahead and trim them like that. I don't want them to be much longer than the marabou tail, or they'll get tangled up. Next, I'm going to take some midge diamond braid in a pearl or root beer or gold color, your choice. I'm going to tie it in Now here's where my variation differs a little bit from both John and Cheech. I use squirrel quite a bit, but I also like antron, especially if I'm using this fly for bluegill fishing. I think antron really does show out a bit. Gives it that little extra sparkle. So I'm going to put some antron dubbing in here. Not too thick. Just spread it out. This is a rust-colored March brown. Is another color I use when matching this brown. Take it all the way to the front. Just behind the eye. And just get some of that off. Next, I'll take my braid and I'll twist it up. For that I use electrical test clip. Works really well. I also use it as a dubbing loop, as you'll see. Dubbing loop tool. Then I slowly wrap. Don't need to take it all the way to the front. Next I'm going to make a dubbing loop about 2 lengths behind the bead. In other words, here's the length of the bead and make another length beyond that. And I'm going to use micropine squirrel zonkers as the dubbing material. Take a strip and just stick it up in there. With some fine tip serrated scissors, I'm going to go ahead and cut that off, and then we twist. Gonna wrap it. As such. Cut my looping off. Now if you remember the other half of those legs I had, that strip of leg material, I'm going to use it to make the front legs, both pairs. Well, actually front legs and back legs. Cut the front loop. Adjust it. And tighten it a little more. Two legs are about like that. And then I'm going to take some more of this pine zonker squirrel, pine squirrel zonker, and make my body. Like that. There we have it. Now if you want to add a little character to this fly, just take your dubbing needle and pull out some of this antron in the abdomen. Look how nice and buggy that is. And that's the Countach Plus nymph. Give it a try.